Welcome to the Hacking Your Health podcast with Ben Canning and Dave Kennedy. Two guys heading out to hack body, mind, business, and beyond. We are here to provide a single source, bullshit-free guide to understanding your body and how you can live better for longer.
Listeners, I just want to say a special thanks to everybody that is listening to this podcast. If you're enjoying what we're doing, please share us. We're all over at We Hack Health on Twitter, Discord, Instagram, you name it, pretty much everywhere. But your support, your sharing of your experiences, this community is what drives us, what drives this podcast, and what allows us to be able to do this every single week for you. So if you're enjoying what we're doing, please share us out there. The more people we have to impact, the more people we have to help. That's our mission. That's our goal. And that's the whole thing about hacking your health. Thanks, everybody.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. I am Ben Canning.
I'm Dave Kennedy.
And this is a Back to Normal Procedures Hacking Your Health podcast.
It is. It's been a while since we've been, I think, back in the normal cadence of everything. So it feels good to be, not jamming it in. Although it is Monday, so we are technically behind.
We are.
When it came to podcast, so.
We are. But we're getting it in. We're in our normal situations. I came dressed as you came dressed as me. It's all about
cut off and everything, showing.
It's warm. It's warm here, dude. It is I know that it's warm over there, but whenever it's warm over here, it hits different. People don't really know what to do. So I was out the back getting work done on my laptop. Some people got their check-ins of me sitting like this out the back with a nice view of the sun in the background. Yeah, it's warm over here and it's warm in my office. And it sort of made me realize how dark it is in here because if I spend all day in here and I go out there, I don't really recognize it. But whenever I'm out there all day and I come in here, I'm like, fucking dark in here. So I might need to address that and actually open some blinds and some windows. Anyway, what's going on, dude? How are you? Apart from missing me not being there, we don't need to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, we had a good trip with the roller coasters.
I survived the roller coasters. Do you want to tell everybody how well I did?
When you have a friend that has never been on a roller coaster before, you need to make sure that you get them the full experience.
Full send.
Full send. And so I decided to, there's I think 15 or 16 different roller coasters, and decided that, I'd take Ben on the roller coasters and do the front row every single time, which is the scariest part of the roller coaster. So I think we did Raptor first, and Ben was like, wow, we don't have anything like this back here. What is this on a scale of 1 to 10? I'm like, it's a 2. But he did really good. And we did all the big ones. We did Millennium Force, which is definitely a Richter 10 scale 10.
You were nervous. You went a little bit quiet in the queue like you did for a while. I was like, I don't really want to get myself in for. I kept hearing they take you 310 feet up and then they drop you 300 feet at an 80% or an 80-degree angle at 92 miles an hour. I was like, fucking hell.
It is one of the fastest and largest roller coasters in the world, and it's funny because I've actually never done front row in Millennium Force, and I was nervous for you, but mostly for me. And I got down to the bottom of it, and the G's were so much that I almost started to black out. Everything got dark, and I was like, "Oh crap, I'm passing out." And luckily, I didn't. I was able to recover for a bit, but I was a hair away from fully passing out.
I don't think I had expected because of where you queue, you can obviously see the angle that it comes up, but I didn't expect it to be as steep off the other side. So as soon as we went over, I was like, oh shit,
this is not good.
And because you don't have the straps over your shoulders like the rest of them, it's like, am I going to make it? But obviously it was fun.
Yeah, it was a good time though. It was a lot of fun. I think we got 8 or 9 roller coasters in. Unfortunately, the Steel Vengeance was during having maintenance, but
we'll have to go back.
Yeah, let's come back and do Steel Vengeance next time. But I'll admit, you handled it. But I will say, were you not exhausted?
Absolutely. Yeah, sure. I fell asleep instantly as soon as they sat there. I was exhausted. Yeah, it was worse than leg day.
Yeah, it is definitely worse. Going to a roller coaster is definitely worse than leg day. I mean, I was exhausted driving back. And I was like, hey, I'll drop you off for a little bit, and I'll come pick you up a little bit later.
Never to be seen again.
I was on the couch and I did not get back up again. So
yeah, no, it was good.
Good time though. No, things are good. I had to unfortunately put my dog down this weekend. One of my dogs, and long time coming. We kind of pushed it as far as we could. but obviously those suck. But did get to go to Philadelphia. I drove with my dad and my son, so 3 generations of family members there, and go see. It was like a Comic-Con. It's called the Philadelphia Fan Expo, and they had Michael J. Fox, Tom Wilson, who was Biff in Back to the Future, and Christopher Lloyd, who was Doc Brown. And I was able to get my flux capacitor, my DeLorean, all autographed while we were there. So it was a really cool event, and got to hang out with the different cast members and stuff like that. So all in all, it was a really great weekend, and I had a good time.
Were you a bit excited, like fanboy properly?
Oh yeah. When,
fully.
Yeah. Well, I've never seen the 3 of them, in person before, obviously, and it was really cool to kind of see and relive kind of your memories and experiences with Back to the Future. And they had like a panel afterwards, which was really cool. And they talked about kind of how they did some impromptu stuff that made it into the movie, and it was just a really cool experience. And my son, who's really into Back to the Future, it was just a really cool event that we all got to kind of witness and experience and everything else. So it's funny because I got home at like 11:30 at night last night, and Erin's like, "Are you home yet?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I've been home for like a half hour." And she's like, "Where are you? I didn't hear you come in the house." I'm like, "Oh, I didn't come in the house. I'm putting the flux capacitor back into the DeLorean." She's like, "Seriously? Like, you just drove 7 hours and you can't come in the house yet?" I'm like, "No, I got to get this done first. Sorry." So it was a good trip. I had a good time. How about you, man? How was your weekend?
Yeah, my weekend was chill. I think just sort of, number one, my plan to sleep on the plane didn't really work out as planned. So I was exhausted on Thursday. So I thought I would come back and have like a relatively normal day, but I fell asleep at like 7 p.m. on Thursday and woke up at like almost 9 a.m. on Friday morning. So I was a bit all over the place. But this weekend was just more catching up on stuff and like putting the bits and pieces back together and sort of working out what to do in the week ahead more than anything. I think, as I sort of mentioned, the coaching doors are officially closed. So I had a bit of a conversation with Matt over the weekend as to like, okay, why are they closed? Like, what is the goal over the next couple of months? And he's in a similar sort of boat. So we sort of mapped out like the stuff that goes on in terms of like working in the business and handling everything and sort of building out the client journey and the client experience. And I actually just have finished the hack call about 10 minutes ago, and I sort of used everybody that was on the call to see what they would like to see. And it was actually a really productive call. I think I took like 2 pages of notes. I think of maybe 40, 50 ideas about what people would like to see in terms of people come in, specialists, mindset stuff around menstrual cycle, other trainings about mobility, other like movement stuff that was sort of just like actually mapping out the videos that they feel like would be beneficial. One actual real cool one I'm excited to do is like how I deal with being in a hotel gym. So like actually just be in the hotel gym and have my plan and go, right, this is my plan. This is what I'm working with. How do I make it work? So a lot of stuff that will be practical, that will obviously benefit everybody that's on the team at the minute, but obviously benefit everybody that sort of comes along after. So mapping that out, what that's going to look like for the next couple of months. And then I feel like today was my first sort of normal back to work day. I did spend it out the back, as I said, but just sort of mapping out what's coming next and planning out the next few events that aren't as far away as I thought they were.
It's never ending, isn't it?
It's good though. It's good.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's not a bad problem to have for sure. But yeah, no, I like that's literally what it's been for me. Just sort of planning out how I can make the service better for everybody who's in it and everybody to come in the future.
Well, I think that's, I was actually thinking about you today about, I think you left me a voice note and you were talking kind of about, talking to Kara about, certain things around mindset and that type of stuff. And, I think there's a big difference in people that are good with status quo. Like, hey, I'm doing well, everything's good, I'll just keep it, neutral. And then there's those that are like, hey, what can I do to get better? What can I do to push myself in a different direction? Whether that's business, whether that's fitness, whether that's, family life or whatever. We have these different motives, I think, and some people just get used to complacency and doing the same thing over and over, which is perfectly fine, by the way. If like you're good where you're at in your career and your position and you want to spend more time focusing on other things, that's perfectly obviously your choice. But I think when you look at entrepreneurship, a lot of the big things are, hey, things aren't good enough the way they are. We always want to get better. We always want to improve. We always want to innovate. We always want to continue to figure out ways that we can do things better for our customers and, get, better, performance metrics or data that allows us to make better decisions or more informed decisions. Like, these are the things that differentiate successful entrepreneurs, I think, for those that fail. And you can apply those same concepts, I think, very, very much so into the, workout regime type of situation, right? We always joke about me ordering new gym equipment, but for me, it's like, hey, how do I do something different to attack my muscle somewhere differently, or try something different that I haven't before to make it better, or push myself in a different direction that allows me to get better goals or objectives that I want to create. And it's cool to see, obviously, the folks in the Denver side of the house, start to try different things and come out of their shells and realize that, hey, I'm at a certain spot. I want to get better. I want to continue to grow. And this is a good way of doing that. Those types of motivational pieces there that allow you to expand past your comfort zones, I think, is what, ultimately makes a lot of folks successful.
Yeah, it's actually, Thomas mentioned it on the call there. He says, like, the further he gets into it, the more he realizes it's like the 7 stages of grief, but it's like the 7 stages of fitness. So every stage he's like, want the cheat codes for the next stage and like the evolution of it. So it's cool to sort of see the realization to that. And actually the Kira story, I guess, is probably worth telling. So while this period of not taking any more clients on is about growing inside the business and sort of get feedback in terms of what could be better from everybody, it's also about personal development on my end. So I'll focus a little bit more on my own training and push that a little bit more, but also like a personal development, as in things that I want to do that I necessarily wouldn't do, and how the whole Kira thing came about. Obviously, Kira is the girl who was on the podcast, the Mindset Girl. She posted something on Instagram, and I thumbed the response, like hit the response. I was like, I'll be fine. Like, I'm not worried about it. It was about basically a coaching offer that she had put out working with her one-to-one. And she sent me a message after, and she was like, I assume that you've hit this by accident, but if not, let's grab a call. And I sort of thought on it, and I was like, I mean, I don't feel like there's any coincidences, so there must be a reason that I have to have a call. I was like, yeah, we'll have a call and we'll see what's going on. And the funny timing of things, I guess, the thing that I want to overcome sort of represented itself. So I was talking to her about it today, and it was, again, the same sort of thing that we talk about around identity. Like, how do I force myself an identity shift to change my thought process around, I guess, an existing belief that I have in myself, or a distrust that I have in myself. So even today, like, it was just a sort of catch-up call and mapping out when we'd have our calls and what the process would look like. But I just think the timing of things and how it sort of worked out, and a bit of a personal reflection and a personal development thing for me over the next couple of months, will be an interesting journey. So I'm excited for that, because again, it's something that will give me more tools in the toolbox that will allow me to be a better coach, and it will allow me to sort of challenge myself. And I can't look at everybody within the client group and be like, no, you need to step out of your comfort zone, you need to do this, and you need to form a new identity, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm not doing those things. So I think the one thing that I've realized over time is you can only coach as far as you're willing to go yourself. So always pushing that little bit further and always asking more from yourself, so that you can then in turn ask more from other people that you work with.
Yeah. And that's, like the self betterment. And also, I think, recognizing that getting outside perspective is also important to some extent. I do caution on getting outside opinions from folks that you don't trust, or not, I'd say don't trust or don't know, close enough. You have to have good relationships with people and recognize their strengths and where they've had experiences in it that can help you. I've taken a lot of bad advice from folks that I thought, may have had a better, route or path or things that could have done. And ultimately, at the end of the day, you have to make a decision of going your own way. But getting advice and perspective and understanding from different people, I think, allows you to really grow. And I think that's, honestly, single-handedly, probably one of the biggest things that allowed me to be successful in my career was listening, keeping my ears open and understanding what other people do. Recognizing that, there's better hackers out there, or better people at their jobs, and listening to them and understanding what they do, how they approach things, and improving my own through that way, right? Folks that have already gone through and done it before. So I think the lesson learned here is that, you always want to better yourself in some way, shape, or form, and you always want to figure out the best way to do it. It's a matter of, I think, efficiency, getting the right type of advice, and also having the motivation to be able to do that, and going through the pain, right? I've talked about some of the challenges that, I've gone through from a hacking perspective, where, it's like the 7 stages of grief, right? In the same way, where you're just pissed because you think you can't get, to a certain spot, and your brain fights you, and eventually you break through it, and you start to understand it a little bit, and you start to have some relief, and then you go through all these different ranges of emotions, and eventually you figure it out. And, it's, I always like the question of, if you could go back and talk to, earlier Dave, if I actually have a time machine, so I can do that. But if I could go back and talk to Dave and say, hey, what would be one thing you could tell, prior Dave, in the past, and, tell him to make things different. And I would go back, and if I had the opportunity to talk to younger Dave, I'd say, dude, trust yourself and don't change a damn thing. That would be my perspective of things, because my failures make me stronger. My learning lessons make me stronger. The decisions that I made that maybe didn't pan out so well made me stronger. And I learned from those, and I know not to do those again, and I know how to get better from them. So, I look at life as a one big, massive learning lesson, but you really don't get, do-overs, at least not that we know of, unless there's like reincarnation to come back as a puppy or something. But, at the end of the day, we have to kind of maximize what others have done, kind of build upon that, and do our own spins on things, and do what works for us in our lives. And I think, the most important is continuously trying to better ourselves in some way, shape, or form, whether that's mentally, physically, whether that's through our businesses or our families, whether it's through our relationships. All of those become super important as you start to walk through, what we call this journey of life.
Yeah, and I think while it's hard to see, and I sometimes think I'm the good person in this situation. I sometimes don't. Like when somebody comes to me and they're dealing with a complete shit show, and I'm like, this is the way it's meant to be, and everybody's like, shut the fuck up, like whatever, like you don't know me. But everything that we've ever went through, and every decision we've ever made has brought us to this point right now, that you and us having the conversation. Do you know what I mean? And even the slightest thing that could have completely changed the trajectory of everything that we did. So while, okay, yes, sometimes are tough and things are shit, but they're the things that sort of shape you. And it's about how you react in those situations, and understanding like the things will pass and you get out the other side of them. And I think having that perspective on things and having that mindset is tough whenever you're in the shit. But then whenever you're at the other side of it, looking back, you're like, oh, right, okay, this is the lesson, or this is what that taught me, and this is why, and things like that. And I think, again, to sort of come back to me and what I do, like I think a lot of the things that I did whenever I was younger allowed me to be able to have the conversations that I have, or have an understanding of people the way that I do, and the shitty jobs that I didn't like, whatever it was, like it's all made me the person, it's made me the coach that I am. I probably didn't see that whenever I was 20 or 25 or even 30, but I can look back now and sort of understand like all the sort of stepping stones that brought me to here, and all the like sort of obscure tools that I have from the different things that I've done that allow me to sort of do what I do now. I think it's important to be able to recognize that.
Yep. And the recognition, I think, is the important part there, right?
I'm not very good at that, but
yeah,
I don't often
not
do
either.
It.
Not either. Yeah,
me either.
So you're working on the continual improvement of the program, which is great.
Yes.
I heard you might be submitting a call for papers potentially, huh?
Yes.
Are you going to do it?
Well, I didn't mention it whenever I was talking about the kid. Okay, so the situation was essentially I landed in Denver on the 19th, and the closing date for the call for papers was the 20th. So I had.
And we were supposed to do a joint presentation, but yeah. I'll be camping. So
yes, so we missed it, and I was like, okay, not meant to be. That's absolutely fine. Then a couple of days later, the situation with Kira, Fat Thumbed, had the message like, yeah, have the call with her anyway. A couple of days after that, they were like, oh, there was a problem. Everybody has to reapply, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, fuck, right, I can't not apply now. So yes, I am going to apply. And Kira is going to help me change my identity around public speaking. And it's funny because I spoke to her today about it, and she was like, what is the hang up? Like, what do you see whenever you think about public speaking? I can literally see myself in this situation. Like it used to be, I must have been 11 or 12 when I was in English class, and I really did not like the teacher that I had, and she used to make us all stand up and read from the book, and I just couldn't read the sentences whenever I was like talking to people, and I kept fumbling my words and fucking it up. And I see that person, so I feel like whenever I get onto the stage and there's people in front of me, I don't have the protective layer of my computer screen, because this is easy because it's just me and you, and you're not really here, and the internet, I don't know how many people are listening. It's easy because I'm in my comfort zone. Whenever I'm stood on the stage, it's not necessarily easy. So how do I change my thought pattern, my identity around speaking in front of people. So it's going to be an interesting journey for sure, because it's genuinely like a fear that I've had for a long time, and I don't have a long time to overcome it. But yes, long story short, I'm going to submit a paper. I mean, I'm doing all this and I maybe won't get accepted for the paper, but that's fine, because I think it's something I need to do anyway. And she said she wants me to sort of think about it on a personal perspective and a business perspective. Like, why do I want to do it? Now I have to go through the 5 whys, so answer why 5 times to really find out why. But the 2 things that came to mind from a personal perspective, I have to overcome this because it's something that it doesn't play on my mind often, but like I see the time whenever we were in Belgium and you were speaking, I was like, fuck that, I'm definitely not the person for that. Or the time that at Matt's event in Edinburgh, Matt spoke, Kira spoke, a couple of people, so I was like, that's not for me. I had that automatic reaction as to like, I'm not that person. So I tell myself I'm not that person. So I need to overcome it, because again, I can only coach as far as I'm willing to go. So I have to be able to overcome in that way. And then obviously from a work business perspective, it's not necessarily to do it to get more clients. It's more for the message that we're trying to spread, like the, more awareness around the podcast, helping more people, the whole We Hack Health movement. So yes, long story short, yes, I'm going to submit the paper.
The fear around speaking is definitely a normal thing, right? I mean, I've been doing this for 20 years, and I still get nervous speaking, and I've been speaking forever, right? A lifetime, it feels like. And it's interesting. I usually don't get scared talking to, I would say, like normal like business folks, okay? Because I know my subject, better than anybody else probably in that room, right? But when I'm going and talking with folks that are my peers, in the industry, I get super nervous because I'm like, oh, what do I have to share with some of these amazing researchers and people like that? And obviously you're in this industry, and you coach a lot of people in this industry, and so you talking to essentially an audience of your peers as well. It's definitely something that is hard to overcome. And the way that I look at it is, you have a vast array of life experiences that other people don't, and a different take on things, or a new way of looking at something, or a way of approaching a situation that you have gone through that is unique, that no one else has done. And that's interesting, right? And I want to hear stories like that. We used to have this track at DerbyCon that was basically new to InfoSec, people that were brand new to the industry or never had spoken before, and it was an awesome thing. We had some really great folks out there. We had some really nervous people. People that had, it was awesome to see the different experiences. But at the end of the day, like, the audience isn't going to start throwing stuff at you. I've had that happen to me before. I had banana. Is it bananas thrown at me or something? Oh, lemons. Lemons were thrown at me and hit me in the side of the head. But that was friends, unfortunately, doing that. A-holes. But you're not gonna get stuff thrown at you. Your interpretation of how that talk is going to go is automatically be negative. Your brain is fighting you, right? Just like it does on lifting and working out and things like that. So you probably have a little bit of a roadblock actually writing the call for paper submissions, because your brain's like, I don't want to do that. I've never done that before. Like, what happens if it goes totally shit and people are making fun of me, and that totally ruins everything I'm doing here, right? The truth of the matter is having confidence in yourself, getting out there and doing and overcoming it. You've spoken before to many people. This is no different, right? And it just happens to be a group of hackers at a security conference, and you're going to be out of your comfort zone, but at the end of the day, you overcome that, you have a good time, and you meet new relationships and people because of that, and potentially help them out. So why not do it, right? There's no reason.
But I have to. Well, number one, I have to now because we fucking told everybody. But but I have to do it because it's something like genuinely for years I've like no, I'm not that person. But it's the same with like, I never liked video content. I didn't ever want to be the person recording because I didn't like the way they spoke. And how I started doing that was doing my check-in feedback. Why am I echoing?
You echoing?
Fucking with something. I started doing my check-in feedback obviously via video, and that was easy because I knew there was number one, the computer screen's in front of me, and there was only one person that was going to listen to it. But it helped me because I could see myself and I was videoing myself, and then obviously doing videos just ran, obviously doing the podcast. So I think I have new skills from the last time I spoke to now, that will definitely help me. But I have to do it for the challenge. Do you know what I mean? I have to do it because I feel like it's going to be beneficial to a lot of people. So I need to look at it that it's something that's bigger than me. So I need to get over myself and just do it. And I actually used you as an example whenever I was talking to Kira about the night that you were on the news, and the next day whenever you were in the gym all nervous and shit. And I was like, what the fuck? So it was like the opposite almost. But it's just being in a situation that you're not used to and being out of your comfort zone. And I can't preach all this stuff about being out of your comfort zone and identity and all the stuff that we talk about, and then not sort of take a little bit of my own medicine. So yes, I'm going to submit the paper, and if I don't get that one, I will keep submitting papers to other conferences until I speak in front of at least someone, until someone will listen to me. I'll get it done. But yeah, I mean, I feel like it'll be good, and I think it'll start a new chapter in what you and I are trying to do. But also in terms of like my career, my life, it'll give me a new avenue to go down. And Kira was like, what will it look like if you don't have that fear? I was like, you won't be able to shut me up. You'll not be able to get me off the stage. I'll just not shut up the entire time. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the journey with Kira as well, because obviously it's a little bit, delving a little bit deeper into the mindset sort of stuff and seeing how she works and whether there'll be anything sort of beneficial in that for anybody within the sort of client group and the community as well. So lots of different things can come from it.
Yeah, I mean, those, again, you're gonna do a great job with it. Now you have to submit because I said it, but it'll be just fine and good, and be able to share. I think you're looking at doing the 15-minute lightning talk. I tell you, I actually enjoy the shorter talks, like the 15, 20-minute, 30-minute talks. To me, are much better than the hour-long talks that you have out there. And I get more accomplished from like a high level of storytelling of what I want to accomplish in those types of events. Than I do like the 45 minutes. I think, for someone trying to understand how, a certain topic works, if it's a super like technical detailed topic, maybe you need that time. But, if you're just going through like a specific topic, you want them to come out with one or two things, usually 15, 20 minutes is plenty of time to be able to go through those. So I enjoy it. And besides, Pittsburgh is a awesome event. I've been there a number of years, spanning throughout my entire career. So great group of people there, great group of people that put it on. One of those things that I think you have a good time with it.
Yeah, I think the shorter one, like again, I was talking to Kira about both the options. I think I would rather go in and like be super concise in a short amount of time and like get the message across, rather than faffing about talking for 45 minutes and not actually have any take homes from it. So my goal is work out what I'm going to talk about, submit the paper, and nail the talk.
That's what I got to do. Nail the talk. So you're working on mindset stuff with Kira. We want you to give a little bit of taste into that and what you're focusing on, and then also wanted to talk a little bit about an interesting study that came out on. I'll tease it a little bit before we get to that, but it's interesting. We have talked several times on here about the connection between your mind and body, and how we in the security industry oftentimes don't take care of our body, but expect our mind to overperform in every aspect, whether that's heavy, deep programming, reverse engineering, 0 days, incident response, long nighttime, stressful situations, dealing with incident response or things like that. And we don't take care of our bodies as we go through this. And, we've always talked about how there is this mind, body connection, and how if you have a healthy body, in turn, your mind will be better. And obviously, from a health perspective, if you're doing the right things, eating the right nutrition, supplementing your body with the right things you need to. I don't mean supplementation as in like supplements, but getting the right sustenance for your body to be able to recover, getting good sleep, active routines that allow your body to endure stress, to either build muscle or cardiovascular health. These things are all related to your cognitive functions as well. But it's never been really studied. They've never studied how how unhealthy people may have a cognitive decline or cognitive inability in comparison to those that are generally healthy. So a new study came out, and I'm curious there. I'd love to go through the results after we talk a little bit more on the mindset side.
Yeah, well, I think the one thing that I'm realizing more and more is a lot of the, I guess, ideas that we talk about when it comes to your health and fitness journey are transferable to other aspects of life. So like whenever you nail discipline, for example, then you should be able to be disciplined in other areas of life. And I think this, I only had a 20-minute conversation with Kira just as to like what the process would look like and how that's going to look. And just, the big thing that she said, it was around the identity. And we've talked about this before, like, whenever you sort of shift from, I go to the gym because I want to lose the weight, to I go to the gym because I'm a person that goes to the gym, like that identity shift is a huge moment. And that's maybe the moment that you talked about whenever you had that flip, the switch flipped. So it's the same sort of concept. The two sort of homework pieces she gave me, essentially we'll have a call once a week. The first one is on Thursday. The two homework pieces that she gave me was understanding the why. So the personal why and the business why. And she said, why do I want to do this? Write this at the top of the page and literally write them out. So answer why, then why is that good? Why is that good? Why is that beneficial? And like literally do that 5 times to get a deeper understanding of the why. And again, having that understanding as to why you're doing something, again, related to whatever your health and fitness goals is, sort of being a little bit more in line with that, whether it's health and longevity to be around for your family, whether it's to be big and scary whenever your daughter brings your first boyfriend home, like whatever it might be, being attached to that why is definitely, I find you get more from the whole process and you're more willing to do the work whenever you really understand why you're doing it. So same idea, same concept. She wants me to understand why I'm actually doing it. And the second thing is, she mentioned this on the podcast. We sort of briefly touched on it again, was about utilizing your sleep as much as possible. I think the term she said was theta waves. So whenever you're sleeping, your brain sort of produces theta waves. So trying to utilize that as much as possible. I may be wrong on that, but obviously I can go back and I can chat to you about it. So essentially finding tracks that you can listen to while you're sleeping. So essentially you're not doing any work, but you're trying to reprogram yourself while you're sleeping. So you can be super specific in it. It can be about more confidence. It can be about whatever belief or behavior, or you can be super specific in terms of, public speaking. So they're the two things that I need to start with. So I need to get a new notebook to make my notes. And then obviously I need to find the tracks to sleep. And then basically on Thursday, we're going to map out what the next 6 or 7 weeks are going to look like in terms of the things that I need to do, the homework I'm going to have, and then what the calls are going to be about. So I'll document the whole thing. We can obviously catch up about it every week whenever I go through the process with her. And I think it'll be good to sort of see, for everybody to see on the other side, like what that actually looks like and how they could potentially utilize it in their own life of whatever they're trying to overcome themselves.
It's interesting that you have a system, obviously, that you've built around health, fitness, tracking your overall health, around heart rate variability and sleep metrics, and making sure you have decent recovery, and doing all the things that we do to our bodies. This is, I think, a very different approach, obviously, on the mindset side of the house, right? Routines that we can put ourselves in to make ourselves better. And, it's funny because I remember when Kara was on here, it was a great podcast, by the way, if you haven't listened to the previous ones. I don't know which episode it was.
87.
But 87. That memorable for Ben. It was for me as well, too. But just simple things of like waking up in the morning, and if you say, man, shit, I don't want to go to work. This sucks. Man, I got to take a shower. Man, I got to go to the gym, which was actually me this morning. It's going to turn out not to be a great day. And, she said, just starting off with something simple, saying, man, today's going to be an awesome day. I can already tell. And just setting yourself up for a positive mindset. It's interesting. I can see, especially on like social media and especially folks that just live and breathe off of that type of climate, or just, negativity in the news or what they're seeing out there. Your brain becomes accustomed to negative personas pretty much day in and day out. And so your view of the world, your view of people, your view of your day is going to be, negativity, right? And I really spend a lot of time working on things that are positive. My wife loves watching murder mysteries and all this other stuff of people getting, disappearing and being murdered. I'm like, listen, don't tell me anything about this. I want to know nothing. I know it happens. I know there's bad people out there, but I try to shelter myself, personally from that. And some may say, well, that's just a tuck and run. You're just, ignoring things. And for me, it's I want to be able to impact things that I know I can impact in my life, and I can't have any impact on that whatsoever. So why do I need to have that, clout in my brain that is causing negativity or me to feel bad in some way, shape, or form? So try to eliminate those as much as possible. I think, supportive community we talk about a lot, supportive, relationships, supportive family members, supportive folks at your business. Those things can create positivity. But if you're just around people that just shit talk all the time and, are just negative people, well, your perception and how you are and how you come off is going to be, negative. So, your view, how you look at things, your mindset, all the things that you want to fall in place may not actually fall in place because you're not motivated, because your mind is always stuck on the negativity. And, if you can change that and you can focus more on positive outlooks of things. And I'm not saying, again, the world's, 100% not a perfect spot and place in any way, shape, or form. There's a lot of bad things. There's a lot of things that happen. There's a lot of things that don't go according to plan. There are times to be sad and upset. And, I'm not saying, hide those emotions. What I'm saying is if that you can craft your life in a way that is lived off of a life of positivity primarily, you have a much higher capacity to do things differently, or have a much better outlook on life in general. When I wake up in the morning, I feel like, hey, I'm going to tackle this day. It's going to be a good day, but don't get me wrong. There are days where I wake up, I'm just like, I'm not having it today. It's just going to be a bad day. But I have more good days than bad. And I really try to, focus with telling myself, hey, I'm going to be all right. Things are going to be fine. Obviously I had, put my dog down this weekend, which is like, you're losing a family member, right? I'm going to have a bad day then. It's not going to be great. There's nothing I can do to fight that urge and just automatically flip a positive switch on. But you grieve, you think about that, you reflect with your family. But even then, in that situation, you're surrounded by positive family members. You're surrounded by people that are like, I'm so sorry for your loss. You have that outlook. And
even so, Andrew Huberman is sorry for your loss.
Even Andrew Huberman, Andrew Huberman responded back to me. He's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry for your loss. And it's not like I tagged him or anything. He just saw the post and, responded back to me. And he had a podcast episode, I think it was about a year and a half ago, where he had to put his dog down. So he's very much, can relate to that situation. And, again, you have more positives than not. And the next day, I got to hang out with my son in Philly and my dad and have a good time. And it was a positive day. It's not that I didn't think of my dog several times, throughout that time, or check to see how the kids were doing or things like that. But again, trying to maintain an optimistic and positive outlook is really the only way that I know how to structure my days day in and day out to be successful. And, the mindset framework that Kira was talking about, and just the small things that you can do, very similar to making sure, you drink enough water throughout the day and check that box, to getting your steps and checking that box. We can do the same thing for our mindset, to allow our minds to shift in a different direction, change, patterns of behavior. Yes. Is it going to probably fight us at first? Absolutely. Even simple things like, first thing we wake up, do you get on your phone and read your emails and check your news? Probably not the best thing to do, right? It's going to start the day off with like, oh man, I got to start grinding now already. Or, hey, something big happened in the news and I need to start fretting or worrying about it. I make it a point, I'll check just text messages to see if anybody messaged me. And usually it's been, and
always,
it's always been. But it starts the day off on a positive note, right? Where, you get to say, hey, what's up, or whatever. But, that's the only thing I do. I usually don't get into news. I actually don't even watch the news at all. So I'm good there. But I usually just, don't check my email, don't go through that until I get a shower in. Maybe I'm heading to the gym. Then I'll start to kind of, take a look at what's happening. But, again, ways that you can kind of structure your mind to change how you're feeling, I think is a really important system to undergo.
Yeah, and I think that it comes back to the product of your environment thing again. And I'm not by any stretch of the imagination that everybody should be happy and sunshine and rainbows all the time. Like I realize that that's an unrealistic thing. And I realize there's people that probably look at that being like, fuck those people. You need to be realistic in it as well, but what can you do to take the positives from things, or, how can you sort of best set yourself up for it? And I think this became apparent. I was talking to my sister and one of my brothers about someone, and I was like, all I was seeing on social media was this person. I was like, and they were like, I don't know who that is. I'm like, how the fuck can you not know? But obviously they get the feedback based on what they look at or what they watch, and I get the feedback based on what I look at and what I watch. So if you are in a position that all you're seeing is negative stuff and assholes and people complaining, it's like, you're in control of that. You just need to fucking get rid of them, or start looking at other things or searching for other things. So, knowing that you have the option or the opportunity to change that. A lot of people would be like, oh, social media is this and it's that. I'm like, it's literally created around the things that you look at and the people that you follow. So you have the opportunity to change that. And again, like I said, it comes down to the product of your environment. As we said time and time again, like it doesn't take a lot to ruin an environment. It just takes one poisonous fish to kill all the fish. So, being able to sort of get rid of that and being able to handle that in a slightly different way, or at least understanding that you're in control of that environment in a lot of situations, I think is, again, a powerful tool.
We've had that at the office, right? You hire somebody that is continuously negative, and then starts to kind of poison the pond around you, and then you start to say, well, hey, is this really necessary? Is there any ways for us to fix this, or you kind of need to move on to somebody different in that spot that can not be a poison to the group or team, especially in a leadership position. You want your leaders being able to express positivity and be able to move you forward and in tough situations, be able to take the leadership role and move forward in times that are dire. So they can go to every aspect in life and family, friends, whatever you look at. I have friends that I've distanced myself from, that every time I talk to them, it's just negativity. It's everything is wrong. Everything is bad. Everything is this. Everything is that. And you try to help them kind of through it, but there's a certain period of time where you're like, dude, you need to own your own stuff and realize, hey, it's reflect inward. It's not the entire world. It's how you perceive things. It's how you look at things. It's how you address things. It's how you treat people. It's how you do this. And I think, when you have that perspective and you can kind of open your eyes, it's a different story. But most people aren't subject to change, and you just kind of say, listen, you're bringing me down. I can't have that. And that's something I got to move on or move away from, and that's a tough, conversation to have. But again, you have those type of people that, will never change. Right.
Yeah. I think it's an important, probably the most important conversation you can have. I remember, Joe, you have met Joe before. Virtually, she came on and did some mobility stuff. Whenever I first met her, I used to the best I can describe it is I just felt like I didn't like people. I was like, people are just assholes. And she put it back to me. She's like, maybe you're just hanging around with the wrong people. I was like, maybe I am just hanging around with the wrong people. And that realization again of I'm in control of the people. And I mean, I can safely say now that, yes, okay, while there are assholes, there are a lot of good people in the world that'll do a lot of good stuff. So again, understanding that there are both sides to the coin, and the environment, the space that you find yourself in plays a big part in the sort of the feedback.
Yep, for sure. Now, bringing us into a perfect topic, because this actually parlays really well with the mindset aspects. And one of the things that, I was teasing about before earlier, though, but, we've always talked about that connection of how you feel when you invest time in yourself, right? That time in yourself isn't egotistical. It isn't selfish. It's things that we need to be able to do to better ourselves in every way, shape, or form, whether that's, again, family, friends, work, everything else. We need time for ourselves. And so we've talked about when I was kind of going through this transformation in health, how I always had brain fog and I was always tired. And I didn't have energy for my kids. And, I didn't want to go out and play baseball or even really get out and do different things. When I started actually focusing on my body, focusing on my mind, focusing on routine, focusing on things that makes me better, all of that cleared up. It wasn't a special drug or, a special pill or something like that automatically removed my brain fog. It was making sure that my body was healthy, cardiovascular wise, blood work, what I was eating, sleep routines and recovering. Those are all things that I took a stab at, obviously with Ben's program, that allowed me to really start to clear up all the mental and cognitive issues that I was having by not treating myself good and my body good. And, we've seen time and time again where that's the case, where if you don't get enough sleep, your mind starts to decay. You start to see, all of these different types of brain disorders and neurologic issues, again, when we don't take care of ourselves. But there's never been, a lot of studies that have looked at the direct correlation between obesity specifically, most specifically around visceral fat, to cognitive function or brain function. And so there was a new research out of India, and this is a fairly large study. It was over 10,000 folks. And sorry, I misspoke. It wasn't out of India. It was out of Asia Pacific, and looked at the Asian population. And there was over 10,000 Asian men and women living in Singapore. The participants were around 51 years old on average, with more than half of them being female. Majority were of Chinese ethnicity, followed by Malay and South Asian backgrounds. The participants underwent extensive psychological assessments, biological sample collections, and completed comprehensive health and lifestyle questionnaires. And this is coming from scipost.org, which is doing the breakdown of the analysis that came out. And they would also look at cognitive function, looking at DEXA scans, and looking at body fat composition, spanning a large period of time. And what they essentially found was that there's a direct linkage between obesity, the more visceral fat you have, the impact it has on your cognitive function, your mental acuity. Meaning that we start to deteriorate as our body deteriorates or gets into a session where we need a healthy body. And so they're essentially saying these, and I'll read word for word here. The analysis suggests a causal relationship between certain factors in cognitive function. Specifically, higher levels of visceral fat, body mass index, and waist to hip ratios were found to have a causal effect on reduced cognitive function. However, other metabolic factors like blood pressure, cholesterol, and blood sugar did not show a direct cause relationship with cognition. These findings indicate that maintaining a healthy weight and metabolic health may be more important for preserving cognitive function. Excess body weight, especially visceral fat, could have a detrimental effect on cognitive ability. A healthy brain needs a healthy body, Mina, one of the researchers said. This includes not having excess visceral fat, and excess body fat stored in the abdomen and not very visible. But over time, this may make individuals more prone to developing diabetes, hypertension, and high cholesterol. We should all take a look. We should all take steps to manage visceral fat through exercise and healthy eating. The study, like all research, includes some caveats. The associations could not be influenced by underlying metabolic diseases, and the cross-sectional nature of the study limits the ability to assess cognitive decline over time. So again, very hard to determine, overall cognitive decline over time, but definitely shows a direct correlation between, your mind and body being that direct, in synchronicity in many cases of what we do. So if you have an unhealthy body, why would we assume that our brain isn't impacted the same way when we're living unhealthy lifestyles, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, we can both speak from experience. If you think back to whenever you had an unhealthy body, or if I think back to whenever I had an unhealthy body, or even whenever I think back to whenever I'm potentially not 100% on it with my training and nutrition, or I just don't feel as good as I usually do, versus whenever I feel my absolute best, or feel like I look my best, or perform at my best whenever it comes to the gym. Like there's a definite correlation from my experience of whenever I'm fully on it, I perform better in work, I communicate better, I coach better, I'm just a better person, I think better, like all of those things. If you think about that on a larger scale, like, even how far away or how distant that can be from some people in terms of like how they think, or, that it's all right for you type situation. But I definitely myself noticed that if I feel like I'm a little bit out of shape, there's definitely, I'm at a lower percentage of myself in terms of what I can give.
Yeah. And I noticed it in every aspect. I mean, I remember just days where you eat like total garbage or whatever, and the next day you just feel like total crap, right? I mean, a good example is you go out and drink a bunch of alcohol, a night. What are you going to feel like the next day?
Not great.
Not good. Right. You're sitting there eating a bunch of stuff that's, clogging your arteries, or adding a bunch of visceral fat, or just isn't great for your body nutrient wise, and you're not getting the nutrients that you absolutely need. What do you think is going to happen there? It's going to impact different parts of your body, including how, your brain happens to be, one of the largest calorie producers or calorie consumers, in our bodies. And when you start to look at, its impact, obviously, on how we operate and function, having a clear brain and a healthy brain is important to almost every aspect of what we do. And again, if we're just getting junk in versus junk out, that's exactly what's going to be happening. There's Aubrey Marcus, the book, what is it?
Own the Day in Your Life.
Own the Day. Yeah. Really great book. Right. And, now he's gone crazy. Aubrey Marcus's podcast is nuts. He's done too many.
He's on a journey. He is on his own journey.
Hey, listen,
if he knows something that we don't, then respect. But I'm not on that same path. I'm down for the nicotine. I'm down for the cold showers. I'm down for routine, but other stuff I'm not necessarily down for.
Yeah, and, who's to say he's crazy?
Maybe he's right and we're wrong.
Maybe he's right. We just have, but I've tried his podcast so many times. I just lost it. I'm done. But great, but he owns On It, which is the supplements company and gym equipment, stuff like that. But the Own the Day was a really great book. And it was one of the first books that I read that Ben had me read. And I do remember, there's a certain passage in there around nutrition, and he kind of equates it to like, a store, like, like going to a Home Depot and, basically replenishing the supplies with junk supplies that no one's going to buy. Right. But if somebody needs it, they're going to go and grab it because they absolutely have to have it, but they don't want to use it. But at the same time, in order for them to build their house, they have to get this equipment or else they have to go somewhere else. So they buy junk equipment and then they build their house falls down. Right. It's kind of the same analogy there where, if you're eating junk food, your body really doesn't want to use it, but it will to replenish itself because that's the only way that you're going to survive in what you're eating. And so it's the same thing, if you're not eating, whole foods, you're just eating a bunch of junk that's been mass produced and processed and has all these chemicals in it. And, there was just a study on sucrose that showed cell degradation by leveraging sucrose, which I take I drink a ton of sucrose, throughout the day between protein shakes. And I think this has sucrose in it, if I'm not mistaken. So we don't know a lot of what these chemicals are doing to our bodies. That study was in vitro. So, there's a lot of complications with that in normal persons, low dosages. I'm sure sucrose is just fine. But when you look at what we're eating, nature, replenishing food with what our bodies are used to, grass-fed things, organic foods, those are going to be the best types of quality of foods that we can use and replenish our bodies with. And if we're, again, replenishing with garbage, well, we're going to feel like garbage. We're going to react like garbage. We're going to look like garbage. All of those things are going to start to happen because our body's replenishing itself with just stuff that it's not designed to do. And, it's the same thing on our mind. If we're just eating crap all day long, well, our mind's going to be crap. If we're not going out and putting ourselves under stress or strain, well, our mind's going to be, not put under that stress or strain. It's not going to be working appropriately. We're not getting enough sleep. Our body doesn't have the ability to heal and recover. All of these things are key to our success in life, key to our success in longevity, keys to our success in success in business and happiness. All of those things relate to our body being in tip-top shape and our mind being in top shape just because of that as well.
Yeah. To go back to, I know we used car analogies quite a lot, but, if you think about food as fuel, like if you have a Porsche 911 and you fill it with like the super unleaded because that's the fuel that it needs, it's going to run pretty well. But if you fill it with fucking Dr. Pepper and Doritos, it's probably not going to run well. Like if you think about your body in the same sort of way as a machine, like the better quality fuel you put into it, the better it's going to run.
Yep. And that's a life lesson that
don't put Dr. Pepper in the Porsche.
I pretty much put Dr. Pepper in the Porsche this weekend when I was traveling. I'm not going to lie. I did have a good meal, but then I also, when you're stuck in a Comic-Con where all they have is like Philly cheesesteaks and things like that, and you have like an hour before your next one, I'm like, all right, I'm eating the Philly cheesesteak, but I'm trying to eat most of the steak. That's probably just garbage steak, but I'm going to eat it. And,
but delicious though.
It's got cheese all over it. It's got bread all over it and everything else. And I might have had a pretzel too, and, the thing. And I might have also never mind. We're not going to that,
but not a regular occurrence. And I think that comes back to the we've spoken about this time and time again. It's like making the things that potentially were regular at one part of your life, few and far between. I'm not against Dr. Pepper. I'm not against fucking Doritos. I'm not against any of those things, but it's making sure that you know when and when not to have them and have the sort of good quality foods, nutrient dense foods the majority of the time, and understanding like those other bits and pieces can fit in. Like I'm not saying don't have those days. It's just making sure that A, what the impact is, and B, that it's not a regular occurrence.
Yep. And that's pretty much all the main things that I had for the study. I mean, when you look at obesity, it's clear that obesity is one of the largest killers, both cardiovascular, diabetes, hypertension, cancer. All of these things continue to show through when our bodies aren't running in normal shape, right? And if we want to be here for a long time, we have to go through and do these changes to go and do it. And it's going to suck at first. You're going to hate it worse than anything else, and then eventually it gets better, right? Like anything else, our brains will fight us, and we continue to
like public speaking.
That's why. What's that?
Like public speaking.
Like public speaking, right? First time you do something, I'll use my son as a great example today. You know, he's out of school, and he's going to some training classes for basketball, and he doesn't like doing things that he's never done before or isn't comfortable with the situations, and that's normal, right? And he's going into the car, and he's upset that he has to wake up first of all, and in the summer around 8:30, and he's got to be at this place, and he's got to work out and do these drills and everything, but he doesn't know anybody there, right? It's an unknown situation. He doesn't know the instructor, he doesn't know the kids there, and he's nervous, and he starts to lash out and becomes very disgruntled and angry and upset, and by the end of the training session, he's like, "Oh, this place was awesome! Like, this is great. I'm glad I was here." Like, do we really need to have that car ride of total shit show, in this car, prior to you getting there? So, it's those types of things that, you could see in your young ones that resonates with you as an adult too, because you kind of do the same thing, minus maybe acting like a teenager, but most folks on social media. But it's the experiences and pushing through those challenges. I think that allows you to feel like you've really accomplished something different, and you've done something that you wouldn't have done before, going on roller coasters, right?
Yeah.
Those types of things. So, fear of the unknown is perfectly normal, but pushing yourself through it and getting it done is the hard part. And that's what differentiates people that are successful and not, right?
Agree.
Yeah.
And for anybody who's listening, who is thinking like, what the fuck are these guys talking about? If you're in a situation that you aren't fully happy or fully confident in, or in an environment, just always remember that you're in control. You can change the environment, or you can change your sort of thought process around the environment. And one thing that always sticks with me is anybody who's ever struggling with anything, you survived 100% of your worst days up to this point, and you'll probably survive this one as well. A bit of a mindset perspective to finish.
For sure. Well, appreciate it. I think it was a good podcast. Back to normal. We're going to do another one on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
Back to the regular sync of things. It's good. I'm not traveling for quite a long time until the Black Hat DEF CON time frame. So I'm excited about that, and spending some time in the sun with my family and out in the pool and all that good stuff. But hopefully everybody's getting enough vitamin D as the weather starts to change. Obviously Ben is with his tank on and everything else. It's a nice tank, by the way. I like that.
Thank you. I'll send you one.
Yeah. I'm wearing the shirt you gave me.
Yeah. I mean, it looks good.
Yeah, it looks really good. But appreciate everybody listening with us today, and for catching in. And you'll catch us again next week, same time, same place, and we'll go from there.
See you in a bit.
Bye.